Entrepreneur MBA podcast purpose is to help existing business owners grow their companies past the 10 million in revenue per year benchmark. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I'm co-founder of Financing Solutions. Financing Solutions is a company that provides very easy to set up lines of credit for small businesses. And I will be your host for today's Entrepreneur MBA podcast. If you're interested in learning more about a line of credit for your business, you can get a free quote to see if you qualify. It's easy. We don't run any credits. Give you, a strategic, a offer letter. It's having a line of credit is extremely valuable to any business. Even if you don't use it, it's just good to have a backup plan. It allows you to sleep at night. I've always had one for 30 years. Just visit our website at fscreditline.com. Again, that's FS as in Financing Solutions, creditline.com. So for those of you who don't know me, over the last 25 years plus, after 25 years, you stop saying more. I've built 6 companies in the $5 million to $25 million range, including 2 companies on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in the United States. I love learning from people with business experience. And today I'm very, very excited to be speaking with Hemant Varshney from Digicom. Hemant Varshney is the founder and CEO of Digicom and has 14 plus years of experience leading various teams of strategic business planning, digital marketing, product development, and within large size Fortune 500 companies. So Hemant, welcome to today's Entrepreneur MBA podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Stephen. Very excited to be here.
So today's topic, real life experiences of acquiring customers through social media. Again, the thing that I kind of love is real life experiences, because I think, it's only through real life experiences that you really get to the nitty gritty of what works, what doesn't work. Because if you just read about it, it's kind of, somebody has just read about it. They haven't tried and they haven't seen the real life example. So, you've kind of done this before with other companies at your agency, correct?
Yeah. So we run we work with a number of different partners, and we run paid advertising across a number of different social media platforms. But we also acquire customers through Google, Bing. So really, anything in the digital sphere.
Are you allowed to say some of the companies that you work with?
Yeah. So Umami Cart, we've worked with OneSkin, HelloFresh, BarkBox, Babbel, to name a few. The Mayfair Group, Wildflower Phone Cases.
Does there tend to be a vertical that your organization has specialized in?
So I wouldn't say a vertical. It's more e-commerce. So if our partners are e-commerce brands, looking to drive sales online, those are the types of partners that we typically work with. But generally speaking, a lot of these businesses are already doing a couple $1 million per year before they engage us. Our goal is to take them from this like $2, $3, $4 million a year to like $10, $15 million a year.
Okay. So right off the bat, let's do a checklist of some of the highlights of the things that you've learned over what's the most important for customer acquisition in social media. What's the number one most important thing that you've learned over these years?
So I mean that's kind of challenging because it's important to have like a good brand, but I think more importantly, it's very important to have a good product. But then there are other components, right? Like how do you message the product? How do you talk about its pricing? What are the reviews on the product? So there's a lot of different components that make an e-commerce brand grow. I think it's more than just one specific attribute of the business or the product.
Okay. I was going to say that what I thought was the most important thing is measurement.
Yeah.
Because if you can't measure something, you can't tell that it's effective. And I know when I've worked with my digital agencies that I've worked with, I'm all about, does this pay for itself?
Yep.
Do I make money? So the number one, now I find sometimes with social media, it's not always, it's challenging sometimes to make sure that you are measured, that you have a good measurement system. Have you found the clients that you work with are really hitting you up about measuring?
Yeah. So we're very, very data driven. We like to operate with like a lot of transparency. So what do I mean by that? It's we, our partners and us, we know every dollar we're spending, where we're spending it. Breaking down if it's a specific audience, if it's a specific ad that's working, a colorway, a headline for each of the brands. So yes, measurement, very important. In terms of like what we do, there's an art and a science piece. So then the measurement is the science piece of, which is half of essentially what we're doing. The other half is the art piece, where it's developing the creative, um, providing the narrative of the brand and the story behind the products and the services. So I think they both go hand in hand, but I do agree with you. Measurement, it allows you to goal set. If you are hitting the goals, then cool. What can you do to continue scaling? And if you're missing the goals, then what can you do to, break down the data and get to goal, or reforecast, or understand like what is market actuality. Yeah, so I do agree with you there.
Well, I mean, I have done this for a long time, and social media and various definitely generations. I would say is the only thing that I would add to what you're saying is, um, I don't care about all the data. I don't really care. What I care about is, am I acquiring clients? And what I've found in the past is the agencies I've worked with, they all throw this data stuff at me. Oh, these are how many people visited your website. This is how many people came through SEO. This is how many people did this. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care about that stuff. All I care about is how many of these clients and how many of these prospects end up being clients for me. Now, if you want to look at that other stuff, that's great. But, you know, um, have you found that some of your clients feel the same way?
Yeah, and so when I'm speaking about measurement, and data and analytics, I'm speaking specifically to driving acquisition. So, for example, say you have your website, right, and 100 people hit your website, 50 people get to a product page, 2 people purchase, 2% purchase rate, right, on the total number of people that hit your site. That's an important measurement to look at.
Yep.
And the reason why I call that out is, the market average conversion rate might be 6%. So we're quite far behind. So it's like, what test can we, what part of that funnel is underperforming, and then our goal is to come back to you and say, this is underperforming. Let's change the messaging. Let's change the layout of the page. Or there's this pop up that's so intrusive, and what we're seeing in the data is that when that pop up comes up, we're losing 30% of the traffic, right? And that might have downstream impact. So I think all of that is connected. Now, when we're talking about, just general traffic numbers, there are a lot of agencies and consultants and people that'll throw out these numbers. Really, to me, it's how do these traffic numbers impact, our sales, our conversions. And not all traffic is equal either, right? So like SEO traffic might be very different than organic social traffic and paid social traffic. It's what traffic is driving conversion, where are we converting, what product, what messaging. And so leveraging the data allows us to figure that out, double down on it, and then continue scaling or pushing the avenues that are driving conversion.
I like something you said before, and you said that 6%. I don't know if it's on average, but 6% of the people visiting a website convert. It depends on the industry, I know, but that. But what other statistics like that
Yeah.
stand out?
Sure. So when we're looking at, running ads, there are three core components. There's your cost to buy media. So it's usually measured in CPMs or CPC. Your click
Cost per
through,
click, cost per month,
cost per meal.
cost per
So
what? I'm sorry.
meal. So cost per thousand impressions, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's the click through rate, right? So the number of people that get served the ad, uh, and then the number of people click through. So the number of people click through divided by the number of people that got served the ad. And then you have your purchase rate, right? Or your conversion rate, which is the number of people that converted divided by the number of people that clicked. Um, if you're looking at these three core components, for your campaign, your activation, and it'll work different depending on the platform. But say we're on Meta, Facebook, Instagram. We are a beauty brand. CPMs, I know they'll range anywhere from like $18 to $30. There are a couple brands that will be much higher, and there are reasons for that, or a little bit lower. But generally speaking, 18 to $30 is where that CPM falls under. Click through rates, for a lot of these beauty brands, you want to be at like 0.8% to like 1.2%, and then conversion rate between 4 and 6%. Like I very much know this because of the number of beauty brands I've worked with. And um, there are times where your CPMs will go up because of market externalities, or it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Everybody is bidding on these audiences and competing against you. When that occurs, we have to make sure that click through rate goes up. So how do we do that? Ensuring we're targeting the correct audiences, or testing through the correct audiences. We're looking at the creatives, looking at the distribution strategy, or conversion rate. All right, like if we see a stark fall in conversion rate, well, why did that happen? Did the website break? Did tracking fall off? Like, using these three indicators, we can understand what part of the funnel we need to focus on and improve, so that we continue driving conversions and at an efficient level for the businesses we're working with.
Is there is there a way that people can measure when people are coming back later, and just typing in the website, so it's a name branding thing where they actually didn't come to the ad anymore. They come back and they actually typed in the name of the website. Is there a way to measure that?
Yeah, Google Analytics is a great tool. It'll give you new visitors, returning visitors, and then you can break down your funnel, the number of people that converted that are returning visitors.
Yeah, I mean, I know they do that, but I mean, so let's say you have an engagement with a client.
Yeah.
The engagement's there for 3 months. They've run a social media campaign. They've run a digital marketing campaign, various different ways, SEO, whatever. Well, not SEO because that's long term, but um, a person reads about let's say it's HelloFresh, right? They came for a specific beauty aid, but then they come back in later and they type in HelloFresh.com. I think the answer to my question is going to be no, but they type in HelloFresh.com 9 months later,
Yeah.
and they came from you originally because of the SEO. I'm sorry, correction. The social media. Do they read are you able to measure that the person came from that campaign?
Okay, so and it depends on the setup, right? Like, because each brand will do it a little bit different, and it just falls under the world of attribution. But if we collected an email address of that user 9 months ago, and they come back and sign up with the same email address, like actually sign up, then you can measure it. Usually cookie windows are like 30 days, for us to retarget and stuff. It's a little longer. Facebook allows like 180 days, but it's hard to match that data overall. But if
Yeah.
you do have a phone number, an email address, or a login account, then yes, you can, as long as the database structure is set up so that we can see the last login prior, or when that information is collected, you can cross-reference the information.
So, have you had clients that will evaluate you on your success and have used that's a great way of looking at it. I like what you're saying. Have used the email address or the 9 months later to see of how effective you were?
Yeah, so what's actually, with like a lot of the partners we're working with, it's about driving revenue now and hitting goals now. Is there a halo impact? Yes. Is you're scaling a brand, and there's more awareness
But they
that,
typically won't measure that. They won't look at
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not seeing that long term. It's more the now. Yeah, are we hitting the numbers right now? And what do we need to do to continue hitting the numbers in the next month or so?
When you're working with a client, I mean, let's face it, it's both your ability to be successful in what you do, but it's also the ability for that company to do what they do to be successful. So, what have you seen in companies that you've worked with that have been very successful clients of yours? What do they do on their side that makes a big difference?
Uh, so open communication and feedback loop. That's very, very important. And the reason why I bring that up is because we might identify certain parts of the funnel that need improvement. We might design it, we might put the flows together, like the web flow, go from this page to this page. Um, but there's a core component of it where the client and part of it is us educating the client on the challenges, but there's a core component of it where the client's like, oh, okay, I understand, we will make the change, because on the marketing and the ad platform part, we have direct control, we can make all of the changes, but when it comes to a client's website or maybe the product pricing or something of that nature, it needs to be an open dialogue. If the partners where they're open to receiving this information and will allow us to test through these changes, we'll find a lot more success with, versus like partners that maybe aren't open to suggestions or yeah, I think that's really the biggest one. It's just like being aligned on the goal and being able to provide the information of, hey, this is, if we improve this, this is what the numbers look like for us, right? So that's very important.
You know, social media, certainly SEO and SEO and SEM have been around a long time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's been around a long time. Social media, not as long, but certainly a long time. What are you seeing the new trends are in regards to advertising in either regards to platforms, integration,
Yep.
complexity? What are you seeing?
So I think it breaks down. Okay, so from like user experience perspective, a lot more video, more UGC influencer. This we've been going through this shift the last couple of years, but really it's important. Like a lot of brands think that having a polished, perfect ad drives sales. We've run so many different tests and have case studies where an ad shot on iPhone or a review about a customer talking about a product or a brand tends to outperform that that picture perfect creative a brand thing. So I would say test UGC, user generated content, IGC, influencer generated content for your brand. Usually we see solid click-through rates, conversion rates are really about matching with the right audience and webflow experience. And then the world has been shifting a lot more towards automation. So, if someone enters their email address, are you sending them a welcome email? Are you, following up with instructions of what your product is or your service is? If someone purchases, is there a how-to guide if, that's required? Um, that is very important, kind of setting up these automated flows. It saves team times, but really the end consumer can get much more educated about your product and the best ways to leverage it or your services. And that's important, right? Because uh, the more effective your product or service is over time, like you'll get referrals, your end customer will be happy. If you're a subscription SaaS type of platform, folks are going to stay on longer. So it helps with overall retention.
What are you seeing? How do you think agencies that provide your service are changing now?
So I think that's a kind of a little bit of a hard question, and there's a like the reason why I bring that up is before we work with a partner, we are auditing agency's work or a consultant's work, right? And the primary reason is, say the client acquisition, a client can come to us and they're like, hey, we're at a $200 CPA right now. We need to get to $20. Um, the reason we audit the work is because we can figure out if that $20 is realistic or not. When we audit the work, we can come back and say, hey, client X, we can get you to $60, but to make this business work at $20, we might want to consider unit economics or other parts of the business where we can drive like upsells and whatnot to support something that's around $60. Now, when we're auditing this work, it's typically from other agencies or consultants, and there are a lot of inconsistencies across so many different agencies or consultants because they're different schools of thought. But really, it comes down to the core setup of each campaign. And oftentimes, why we're winning the business is because they're not looking at the numbers or the core setup. It's just more of a set it and forget it, versus like continuously working with the partner, talking to the partner in Slack every, once or twice a week, over a call, understanding where the business is and evolving that, marketing plan. And so, the reason why I say it's a tough question is because there are a lot of agencies that to me aren't doing their clients justice because of either the set it and forget it or just not following up and providing the level of customer support and the data to back up what it takes, providing that information to the client of what it takes for them to be successful.
So when you see that, let's give you the example like you use, where it was a $200 CPM versus a $60 CPM. Is what you're saying is that you think that the other agency has lost focus or is not watching the client as much as they used to?
Yeah, okay, I'll give you an example, right? Like, so client X has a target of 200. Like right now, their CPAs, when we were speaking to them, they were like, we're at $250. When we ran the audit, they were at $800. So,
So they were wrong.
well, they weren't correct, yes, but they were at 3x, what the client had originally said to us, and then we got this information through the audit, provided that information back. Client's like, we need to be at $100. Okay, at this point, the client has spent $50,000, $60,000, and half of that, half of those dollars were spent on one ad, so $25,000 to $30,000, driving in an $800 CPA, right? Anybody that's like, I guess, comes from like the growth discipline or really understands paid media for like acquisition. If the ultimate target for that ad is $100, we should not have spent more than $300 testing that ad. What ends up happening in this specific example is there's $25,000 to $30,000 spent against this ad, which is wasted media dollars. In that, with that $25,000 to $30,000, we could have tested through 40 different ads, understood what creative is working, what headline is working, is it the audience? Like, there's so much more, and to me, that's a big, you know, uh, drop by that specific agency. It's like, how did we spend so much? Like, how did we even get to this point? Like, how did we even cross a few $1,000s, let alone like $25,000, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Whenever I've worked with agencies, I have to work with agencies. We've done it on our own. We've gone back and forth. The thing that I see with agencies often is that they do a better job with A/B testing. They just do a lot of testing. They do a nice job with that before they, you really go to town. I think when we've done it on our own, it we have not been effective at doing a lot of testing. We kind of run with this one thing and
Yeah.
just go, and we evaluate it as we're going. But um, so you are most of your clients people who have done all they're outsourcing their digital marketing?
So most of our clients, yeah, a good chunk of it, yes, but it's always important to have that one team member that's part of our clients like internal team that understands growth and marketing. Sometimes it's the founders, other times it's a consultant that we will work directly with, and then there are also heads of growth. I think the partnerships with heads of growth or founders typically work pretty well for us in the sense where we can provide all the information and context as to the what and why, and there's understanding of, okay, this is what we need to do so we can make those changes and keep helping them grow. When we don't have a contact that really understands digital, that's when it gets a little bit difficult, because then that information, the way it's getting liaised back to the team, it's not always the correct information, or or there might be things that are important that we're flagging might not be looked at as important just because they might not necessarily know the impact. So yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised there's people who are in marketing who still don't know digital.
Yeah. And the thing is though, marketing is like a big umbrella, right? There's event, there's design, there's so someone might come in and say, "Hey, I know marketing," and they've done event marketing but never worked on anything in digital. And like even in digital, it breaks down, right? There's like specific skill sets. So, and founder might be like, "Hey, great, I don't have time for this. Event marketing manager, you manage this relationship." And so that can become challenging. It's not that they don't know marketing, it's just that the specific skill set or understanding, it's not always apples to apples.
What's the trends with social media now as far as success goes from a digital marketing standpoint
uh,
versus versus Google or search engines or whatever?
So, trends, I mean, from a platform perspective, a lot of brands are getting on TikTok or have been. TikTok's been just growing at such an exponential rate. It's unbelievable.
Is it just because TikTok it's because there's so many people on it, or is it because it's a medium that's geared well toward a certain product?
There are a lot of people on it, and that their technology is getting a lot more advanced. So if you take like Meta's ad platform and compare it to like a Quora, Meta has an incredible ad platform, targeting pixels. There's so much you can do on it, to narrow down your audience and get good user data because it's real people. There are other platforms where I kind of question, is this traffic even real? Uh, TikTok has been able, like a year and a half ago or a year ago, when we were running TikTok ads, it was like, hey, these pixels aren't the best pixels because it's hard to track and measure for specific reasons, with attribution. And a year later, it's almost just as good as Facebook. And Facebook's been doing this since like 2000, 8, 2009. And I think it's quite remarkable how much of an effective platform they've built out, because there are other ad platforms where they've been around for years, and for a D2C marketer, it's just their platforms still aren't great. It's all, those other platforms are all geared around brand awareness, but TikTok's doing a great job. They have solid engineering teams that are working towards solving problems for direct to consumer marketers.
What do you think about? I'm a big YouTube user, so I haven't spent that much, hardly any time on TikTok, so I can't really even do a comparison. what have you found from a advertiser standpoint of the tools that YouTube gives?
So run a solid amount of ads across YouTube. I think YouTube does a great job with awareness and product consideration. It takes time to crack the kind of conversion funnel on YouTube, and the reason why I say that, it's because oftentimes on YouTube we need content similar to TikTok, but the content on YouTube is usually, a little bit more polished than what we'd see on TikTok. Um, and so brands will be like, "Hey, listen, let's run on YouTube. Cool. We have this one video." And the reality is we need to test through like 10, 15 different videos, right? Cut it up, have different hooks to figure out what actually converts on YouTube. And so the challenge on YouTube has always been there's not enough content, but with the partners that have supplied us with the content we need or allowed us to like edit their content so that, we can create new iterations. Those are the partners we've found success on YouTube. So I think YouTube's a great channel. It provides incredible, awareness. Costs are pretty cheap comparative to like say Facebook and TikTok from a CPM perspective. And we should be testing on YouTube, but if you're going to test on YouTube, need, like the strategy should be like testing 10 pieces of content, 15 pieces of content over like 30 to 45 days, versus, hey, we got these 2 or 3 ads and, does YouTube work or not?
Yeah, I have to start using TikTok a little more to stay current. Not from an advertising standpoint, just from a user standpoint, just so I could see what they're doing. It's so much different than YouTube because YouTube now has minis and shorts and stuff like that too. So, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that when Google and Bing were going at it a long time ago, and Google was just getting so much better traffic than Bing, but yet Bing was a fraction of the cost. It just kind of reminds me of TikTok and YouTube now. TikTok is the 1,000-pound gorilla, and YouTube is a lot cheaper, but may not get the best results. But again, there's 2 different platforms. Where is TikTok headed? They were the head of the mini video, so to speak, the short video. Where are they headed?
So I think what TikTok will eventually start to do is like increase their placements or create new placements. So if you think about what Instagram's done, right? Before it was just the Instagram feed ad, right? And it was just a static. Then comes stories. Then there are all of these other placements like reels now, right? So I think as a kind of a next step, TikTok is going to create new placements, and which will allow advertisers to find new ways to reach their target audiences on TikTok, and also probably increase the time spent on the app with these kind of new placements. So I think that's where they're headed next in terms of what placements. No, I'm not too sure, but I'm going to assume it's still going to be video based placements.
What if my last question? So let's say you're dealing with a company that's been around a long time.
Yep.
Let's say they just haven't felt that social media in the past has been a good lead generation source for them. Mm-hmm. Maybe just because their product is not geared toward it.
Yep.
And so they haven't done it in, they're not doing it at all, or not doing it they're not spending much money on social media. Do you think that they should be? I know, you'd say, well, it depends on the product, but I don't know if we could just pick something, but they're like, I think we all get this pressure as business owners or leaders to social media, yeah. Right? And you're like, I did that 5 years ago and it didn't work then. What do you think?
So I think in that sense, it's important to have organic content, not necessarily paid, right? So um, say it's an agency consultancy for business credit lines, right? Like you can take your customer stories and just put it as organic content. You don't put money behind it. Just
On
create
social media.
on social media,
Yeah, it's
right?
interesting you say that because we're doing that now. We're reintroducing all our content on LinkedIn again,
Yeah.
which, just as, not paying for pay, but we're taking all the nonprofit MBA podcasts. I do two podcasts. I do the Entrepreneur MBA podcast. I do the nonprofit MBA podcast. We're taking all that content now and putting it back on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
not for our company, but just under podcast. But go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and the big reason why, it's the clients that, so there might be a client where they'll see a reel or some of this repurposed content, right? Like an article or the podcast across LinkedIn and whatnot. It creates a buzz. It's hard to measure. Um, but on the flip side, somebody who's like, hey, listen, I want to work with company X, and they're doing research on you, and they see that, you're staying current, you're providing testimonials or stories and showing you're a thought leader. And if they compare that to a company that doesn't do any of these things, right? Probably more apt to work with you, right? Because you're positioning yourself as the thought leader in that vertical or industry. And I think that that's helpful. It's like reviews, having reviews, but having this content where, like, we do a lot of this at Digicom. It's less about selling, it's more about, here's the tools you as a business owner like need to understand digital. Here's how your internal team can leverage it. If you have an internal team, here's what can give you some ideas. If you're working with an agency, here's other stuff you can talk to them about. And what we'll find is it just starts conversations for us. Or when we jump on calls with new clients or existing clients, it's like, hey, yeah, we read this article or we saw this video, I thought it was interesting. Or you guys are just putting content out there. It's, thank you.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great comment. I maybe we'll start moving it back to it a little bit more. Well, it's really good. I learned a lot. It was good stuff. Staying current on SEO, SEM, digital marketing, social media, everything. I think it's so important for a business owner. Unfortunately, when you're a small business under 10 million, you don't have just one person who can do it for you. You got to stay on top of it as the business owner. What's going on now? Certainly, you can outsource it to something like Digicom, which is always a great thing to do. So I'd like to thank so very much Hemant Varshney from Digicom for coming on today's podcast. And if you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. Please also give us a review on your podcast app if you liked today's podcast or any of the other ones. And if you're interested in getting a line of credit, please visit our website at fscreditline.com. Again, that's financing solutions. That's fscreditline.com. Or give us a call at 862-207-4118. Hemant, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. Check out our website. It's digicom.io, or shoot me an email, hemant@digicom.io.
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I think the biggest takeaway, me personally, I got taken, that was the last thing we talked about. I mean, I think my company's probably going to move in that direction more. I know, like I said, we're now starting to post more back on LinkedIn. When we kind of got away from all our social media, we got a little frustrated with it. It wasn't really working. So, now I think we're probably going to start posting more all of our, because we are a thought leader in both our content, in both nonprofits and business leaders. We really do provide a lot of unique content. So I think we're going to start posting all that content back on our social media feeds. That makes complete sense. So that was like kind of one of my big takeaways. And then we talked a lot about measurements as well, which is always important. So it was all good stuff. I really enjoyed listening to Iman today about what he suggested. Have a great day, everybody.